You have reached European Citizens Ask, a podcast by the European Committee of the Regions. Please leave a message after the tone.
Hi, my name is Mark and I'm calling from Belgium. I recently became a father and I live with my wife and our newborn son in the Wallonia region. A couple of years ago, a strong flood hit our hometown. It was a disaster. Many people had to evacuate and lost goods and houses. Being a father made me more concerned about the impact of climate change on the new generations. And I am worried that these extreme climatic conditions will worsen in the future. I was wondering what Europe does to help regions and cities, and how can they count more in the fight against climate change?
Thank you, Mark, for your question. You've had a real direct experience of weather changes influenced by climate change when your hometown was flooded. And I sincerely hope that you and your family, and indeed your hometown, have recovered. I would imagine during that experience, you also experienced the help and support of your local or your regional authority, your emergency rescue teams, attempts to divert floodwaters perhaps, or the provision of sandbags to mitigate worse excesses of those floods. So I suppose from a city and region perspective, we step in when things go wrong, when people and communities have been impacted, whether it be flooding or excesses of heat. But also, I suppose, we are there trying to mitigate and implement climate action. And that comes, I suppose, your question about what is Europe doing to help us do that. From our perspective, Europe provides many supports, both in terms of finances, but also expertise to help us in those actions to implement climate action plans. Many of those funding channels are filtered through our national governments down to cities and regions. In many cases, we might apply to our national governments for particular projects, but they can, for example, in your case, build flood defences, particularly defences that are nature-based in their solution. Funding can also support the implementation of early warning systems, particularly technologies, as we move to I suppose, looking at how the digital era and digital technologies can help us. We also fund or get funding for actions that will help both us adapt to climate change, but also to mitigate against it. And one of the examples I'm thinking there of is active travel networks and infrastructure. So segregated cycle lanes so that we can persuade those who use their private car to get more active and reduce emissions. Also public transport networks. City expertise is provided in some of our plans. We have particularly the EU missions. We have a mission on adaptation and also a climate neutral and smart city mission, which my own city, Dublin, is a part of. And a big benefit of being part of that mission programme is the expertise, is the sharing and the learning and that network that we can learn from each other. And I think there is a crisis out there. We need to accelerate our actions. We don't need to be reinventing the wheel. So that network gives us that opportunity to see other good examples in action in other countries and take them and adapt them. And another element of our work, aside from the actual practical implementation of climate actions, is advocacy. And through the Committee of the Regions and other political networks, we are constantly advocating for greater direct funding and supports down to us, down to the local level, that we have a role in sitting with those in charge to co-design. And because we believe it's more effective because we are on the ground and we know the variations, we know the context. So that's a key part of our work as well. And we'll very much continue for people like you and your family and our community. So thank you very much, Mark, for your question. And I wish you, your family and your hometown the very best into the future.
This was European Citizens Ask, a podcast by the European Committee of the Regions.
the Assembly of Regional and Local Representatives,
with Alison Gilliland, member of the Dublin City Council in the Republic of Ireland.
You too can post your questions about how Europe works at local level, or share the good practices you see at home. Together, let's shape the future of Europe from the ground up.